They've taken all the uptight extremes of Christianity and cults using the Christian faith to control people. That's what most of these churches and movements are. And they've just flipped it around. And boy, did we get down in the muck with it and follow it and get into all this self-loathing and all this guilt and just buy into it all. And then those of us that have consciences become the slaves of people that don't. And they sit there with their little whip, yeah, mule, yeah, keeping us right in line. Well, not me. I love God because I know God's real and I've had spiritual experiences and I know God's plan. At least I've seen some of it and it's beautiful and I want to be part of it. But I don't find God in these churches. My spirit finds the devil.
Infowars.com. You are the resistance.
Look, it is a fact that Iran's working with North Korea on nuclear weapons. It's a fact they're very belligerent and are funding terror attacks in different parts of the world. But what's really happening here with Trump is an agreement was basically tentatively made between our military 5+ years ago and the Russians and the Iranians to not let al-Qaeda take control of Syria, to shut that down. Our own military rebelled against Obama. We told you about it first, Colonel Schaefer and other guests, and years later it all came out. I mean, where else is it going to come out but InfoWars? Other people are just too big a coward, just like Vegas. We told you all that was fake and multiple shooters and people shooting inside the hotels, and it's all come out. Got a whole stack of that I haven't even gotten to yet. But I'm decisive when something can be decisive. And I agree the globalists have appeased Iran and the whole thing's a mess and they're belligerent and threatening. But at the same time, are we going to get into a big regional war with Iran now? And they've got real terror cells that have been brought into this country and Europe. It's going to be spectacular. And listen, if folks want big wars and people like Iran want one, I'm not afraid of it. I'm not looking for it, but I'm not really worried about it. It's a miracle we've been here this long. But I just look at, I know what Trump's doing. Where we've been maneuvered by the whole Hollywood globalist elite and the big mega bankers that just want to be Hollywood stars who took control of the global economy and then made themselves richer than God, basically, but then cut off the economy to make people poor so they could dictate the terms of their surrender so they could then cuck Christians and people that are the strength of the nation. I mean, this is just a bunch of really degenerate, neurotic, weird stuff where Hollywood and the globalists want to force us into a bathroom with them so they can bathe naked in front of us and then come out and rape us. And that's basically what it is. They say, your kids belong to us, you belong to us, behave, follow this societal comportment, or we're going to destroy your life. Because they knew our weakness. As decent Christian people, we have a moral compass. We have a conscience. And so they remove the conscience of being good and hardworking and taking care of your children and not lying. And they replaced it with, oh, you've got to teach 5-year-olds that they might not be a boy or a girl, and you've got to let other third parties come and sexualize them. That's your new religion. And that's all they've done. They've taken all the uptight extremes of Christianity and cults using the Christian faith to control people. That's what most of these churches and movements are. And they've just flipped it around, and boy, did we get down in the muck with it and follow it and get into all this self-loathing and all this guilt and just buy into it all. And then those of us that have consciences become the slaves of people that don't, and they sit there with their little whip, yeah, mule, yeah, keeping us right in line. Well, not me. I love God because I know God's real and I've had spiritual experiences and I know God's plan. At least I've seen some of it, and it's beautiful, and I want to be part of it. But I don't find God in these churches. My spirit finds the devil. They told Christ, why are you hanging around with these prostitutes and tax collectors, the most hated people at that time? And he said, because they don't claim they're good. They don't claim they've already got it all figured out. They don't pray up on the hilltop in front of everybody else about how good they are and then go around and arrest people and shake people down and, have the tax collector do it. The tax collector actually goes out and does it. He has to be hated. What about the people behind that tell him to go out and do it? See, I used to attack the TSA all day long. So I realized we let Congress do that. Congress did that. They set all that up. They bring the Islamics in. They let them attack. And then they turn around and then, I'm just going to blame the TSA people. Yeah. I stopped being a hypocrite. I grew up. And look, I mean, I was always somewhat on target for 20-something years on air, but you really look at the cop-outs in the world. Like, I let Congress do that. You let Congress do that. I'm not going to sit there at some schlub working at the TSA who really thinks he's trying to look for terrorists. And sure, there's a few perverts and criminals in there as well, and it's a bureaucracy, and it's bad, and I don't like it, and I say get rid of it. But you know what? You know who really let people sit there and try to grope my children? Is the public of this country. The NFL-watching, wannabe tough guys that run their mouths all day but wouldn't do anything when it came down to the line. They'd turn and they'd run as fast as they could from any type of real challenge. Here's the difference. I'm not running. Because you know what I'm scared of? I'm scared of running. I'm scared of being a coward. The only thing that feels good is going straight up against this thing. And that's why the globalists hate us so much, because they know they can't scare us. Because I'm already scared of separation from God. I've already tied into that energy. I've already dialed into it. And it's so good that I'm actually ashamed at how fearless I am. Because I should worry about myself and my family. And it's not some wanton thing or some negligent thing where I threw the fear aside. But still, there's shadows and echoes of that when I'm all in, everything. My family, my name, my treasure, my blood, I'm ready. It's all in. Let me tell you, making that decision at a spiritual level is like coming out of Egypt. It's like coming out of Babylon. The minute you decide to be all in is the minute you start living. And then you start knowing that this is all just a test. You don't want to commit suicide. You don't want to die, but you're not afraid anymore. And you realize God's holding your hand. So you want to stay here for your family. And stay here to take on the enemy. But you want to be with God. The only thing that matters in this universe is that when you get buried 6 feet under, you're with God. Because God is all about free will. And God isn't going to be there if you don't want him to be. And that, my friends, is what separates us, is that choice. People that are so insecure, that are so weak, that they would, out of fear, give into this spirit, believing it would deal with them easier if they rolled over to it. Rolling over only presents your belly to the wolf. If the wolf's going to come, even if he's successful defeating me, he's going to choke on my flesh. May the wolf choke on my flesh. We'll be right back on the other side. I'll finish up with Trump, get into the big news I haven't hit yet. Infowars.com.